Hello, um, welcome again to the course. So remember, we are starting our course of negotiation and conflict management. As I mentioned before, first we're going to start with the negotiation part. And then after that, during the last weeks, we're going to be talking about conflict management. Now, this first unit, we're going to start analyzing the, uh, the negotiation process. Today, we're going to be involved in how a negotiation looks like. I'm going to show you what is considered theoretically the way you should prepare and the way you should conduct a negotiation. In other words, we're going to see today the X-ray of a negotiation, how it looks from the beginning to the end. Um, Let me warn you, this we are going to be talking about today is, let's say it's the theoretical part. It's how it has to look like. Now, when we develop practice, when we develop expertise negotiating, then we can change some things. Then we can move some of the elements. Then we can skip some of the parts. However, for a very important negotiation, and in my own opinion, what you should do is just follow the steps. Okay? So I'm going to share with you my presentation, and I'm going to share with you all the different steps that we go through when we build, when we structure, when we design a negotiation. Okay? So let me share with you this presentation. And this is it. So let's start by knowing that the negotiation process is structured and that we have to follow every single one of the steps that we're going to mention here. Let me fill let me fill let me fill all this slide so that we can talk about the different parts. So when we talk about negotiations, this is how they look like. Okay, so we start by planning. Planning, the most important part and the one that we never do. Yes, planning is the most important part of the negotiation. Planning is what is going to tell you if your negotiation is going to be successful or not. It doesn't really matter how well you conduct the rest of the negotiation. If your planning stage is wrong, or if you skip the planning stage, the rest of the negotiation is not going to work. So planning, preparation, that becomes the most important part. There's one very famous negotiator that has a very nice phrase that I like, and the phrase goes, in a negotiation, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So exactly that's what defines the planning stage. If you don't prepare for a negotiation, if you fail to prepare for a negotiation, you're preparing your negotiation to fail. We will see what is inside the planning stage later, a little bit later on. Okay, so now that in your office, in your own setting, you develop the planning, now you can go to negotiate with your counterparts. Now you sit at the table with your counterparts. Now, please have in mind that I mentioned counterparts. I didn't say your enemy. The person in front of you is not your enemy. You don't have to kill this person. You have to work with this person. So that is one of the biggest mistakes that we make. When we consider the person in front of us our enemy, that person, remember, is not your enemy. That person is your ally. You have to work with this person. So the opening includes several different issues, and we're going to see all of them a little bit later on. And then we go to the bargaining stage. The bargaining stage, we're going to divide it in two parts. On one side, we're going to talk about bargaining on the table, and then we're going to talk about bargaining away from the table. Now, uh, bargaining, the bargaining stage or the bargaining step is usually um, misunderstood. And some people, they believe that bargaining becomes the negotiation itself. Let me explain. Uh, let's say that you go to a market, one of those Sunday markets in the downtown plaza of any little town. And you arrive at the market and you see that there is a lady there and she's selling, I don't know, tomatoes, okay? And then there's a sign that says tomatoes, $1 a pound, okay? And if you tell the lady, I'm going to take 5 pounds, but I'm going to pay you $4. And the lady says, no, 5 pounds, $4.70. And then you say, no, 5 pounds, $4.50. That's what you're doing. You're bargaining. You're not negotiating. Bargaining is part of the negotiation, but bargaining is not the negotiation itself. So you have to be aware of this. Bargaining it's a crucial part. It's a very important part of the negotiation, but bargaining is not the negotiation itself. Okay, then we go to the closing. After the bargaining stage, let's say that we, in a certain way, we arrived at a deal. Now we have an agreement, and then we go to the closing. Closing is one of the most important parts because closing defines everything that you have to do in order to make sure that all the terms are completely understood. So we will see what is inside the closing. And then we go to the follow-up. We believe that with closing, that's the final stage. No, we still have the follow-up. The follow-up includes some of the elements we're going to mention later on. And then that's where we stop. And then we say, now the negotiation is over. Not yet. We still have to include, as one of the crucial parts of the negotiation, we have to include the conflict resolution. We always say, in case conflict arises, well, you can be sure about it. Conflict will happen. Why? Because the world changes. The world is different. And because the world is different, you are going to face some changes. And when things change, when conditions change, conflict comes part of the game. So that's why at the end of the course, during the last weeks, we're going to focus on conflict resolution. Okay? Now, this is how the process looks like. Now, let's go step by step and find out what is inside each one of these steps. Okay? But before we move on, as you can see your screen, this is the whole negotiation process. This is how it looks like. And the reason why I created it as a steplet, it is not because it looks nice. It's because it sends you a message. What happens in a ladder if you take out the first step? If you take out the first step, And because the rest of the steps are resting, all of them, in the first one, if you take away the first step, everything falls down. So that's a message I want to send you. If you don't care for the planning, if you skip the planning stage, everything else is not going to work. Okay, so let me move on and let's see now the planning stage. Okay, let me fill everything here. Okay, there we go. Planning. Okay, before we start with this, let me bring your mind. Let me bring your mind to this consideration. I want you to follow me on this, please. Okay, now put in your mind the world back at the beginning of the 20th century. Okay, let's go back in our minds. Let's go back to the beginning of the 20th century. Imagine world trade. Imagine the speed of uh, the transportation between the different parts of the world. Imagine that you want to bring merchandise from Asia, I don't know, from China, from Japan, into America. Okay? First, how much time did it take at that time? How much time at that time, how much time do you need, the beginning of the 20th century, to send something from China to Los Angeles? Okay? Actually, it was kind of months. And the price of the freight was very, very high. It was very expensive because very few companies, very few corporations, very few uh, transportation services were doing that, bringing your merchandise on a boat from China to Los Angeles. Okay? Because of that, at the beginning of the 20th century, the competition was very, very seldom. Competition was very low. Competition was almost non-existent. So if you were selling whatever product in any part of the world, usually your competition would be only local or maybe regional competition. And because of the very, very low competition that you faced, you knew that whatever you were selling, people that wanted to buy it, they didn't have many choices. In other words, if you want to buy something and the only place you can find that is in your region, has one price, how can you negotiate with that? I mean, you go to this person and you say, hey, how much do you want for each piece? The person is going to say $5. And then you say, no, I'm going to give you $4. And the person says, you know what? Forget it. $5 is my best price. Take it or leave it. And please don't bother me. I have many people wanting to buy this same article for $5. So, okay, so it's $5. If you don't want to pay $5, please get out of the line. That was it. Negotiations were very rough at that time because there was no competition. Okay? So now, bring your mind back to 21st century. Bring your mind to our actual times. Now, think about the same article, the same merchandise that you want to send from China to Los Angeles. How much time do you need? Weeks at the most. Now, what about the price of the freight? The price of the freight dropped down dramatically. Today, one container of 40 feet, 20-ton container from the port of Shanghai to the Port of Los Angeles, the price of the freight, I'm not talking about duties or whatever, the price of the freight itself, if you send several of them, several containers, the price of the freight is $600. Yes, you listened good. $600 the freight for one container. That's nothing. Now, the point I want to make here is because of that, is that today competition is all over the world. We have a lot of transportation routes. We have a lot of transportation companies. We are more efficient. We are sending merchandise around the world in a very expedite form. Today, everything is moving everywhere. So that makes competition to be the name of the game. So today, if you're selling whatever article you're selling, I don't care where in the world you are, people who want to buy it, they have so many choices, so many choices. Actually, you're facing competition from the other side of the world in the next block. So somebody is going to offer the same merchandise you're offering, or a good alternative, from the other corner of the world, just around the corner of your store. So that's the way it goes today. Competition is the name of the game. And because of competition, if somebody wants to buy whatever article you're selling, and the person comes and says, how much do you want for each piece? And you say, $5. And then the person says, no, I'm going to give you $4. If you tell this person, you know what, $5 is my best offer, take it or leave it, and please don't waste my time. I have many people waiting in line to buy this for $5. Then you know what's going to happen? The person is going to go away, because this person knows there's other 8 or 9 or 10 people in the same place selling what you're selling. So today, negotiations cannot be rough. Today, a negotiation is not a poker game. Today, the traditional negotiation style of, I'm going to be rough, I'm going to use bluff, I'm going to lie, I'm going to make up something. Those techniques, believe me, they don't work anymore. Maybe back in 1950, not today. So today, the negotiation process has a completely different setting, has a completely different background. Today, you have to be creative. Today, in order to advance in negotiations, you have to make sure that you are offering something the other side needs. Today, you cannot negotiate with price. If the only element you have to negotiate with is price, you are dead. Yes. Today, you cannot negotiate with price. Of course, price is part of the negotiation, always. It will always be. However, price today is not the most important part of the negotiation, because in every single negotiation, I can guarantee you that somebody can give a better price. Somebody somewhere has a better price than you. So if the only thing that you have as your strength is the price, you are dead. Because most for sure, somebody can give a better price than you. So today, you cannot afford to negotiate with only one element, price. Today, you have to negotiate with different elements. Like what? I don't know. Maybe you can include the freight, maybe payment schedules, maybe credit line, maybe additional services. I don't know. But today, you have to include other elements in order to be able to negotiate in terms that you can uh, that you can consider good for you. Now, let me give you an example. Let me just fix the camera here. Okay, now we are there. So this stage, the planning stage, is about finding those elements. It's about finding what can you provide, what can you put on the table that you know that you are very good for and that the other side needs. And maybe they don't even know. Maybe they don't know they need it, but they need it. So today, a very good negotiator knows that you have to negotiate with maybe 4 or 5 elements. So this type of negotiation is called the multi-factor negotiation, because you're not negotiating only with price, you're negotiating with 4 or 5 elements. Planning is the time to determine what other elements besides price you can put on the table. Let me give you an example. Maybe you own trucks. So if you have your own trucks and you know that your customer, the person you're going to be negotiating with, they don't have trucks. In case they buy from you, maybe they're going to have to hire somebody to do the freight. So if you have trucks, maybe you can include the freight as part of the negotiation. That's one of the elements. Now, maybe you know that the other part, actually, they don't have enough money to pay for the merchandise today, but you know they have a good contract. So maybe you don't need the money today. Maybe you can wait 60 days for the money. So maybe you can include 60-day credit as part of the negotiation. Okay? So now we are finding elements that we know that we can use to negotiate, and they are not directly the price. So let's say the other side, they come to you and they want to buy your products. They want to buy 1,000 pieces, and you give them a price of $5 a piece. And you know that somebody else maybe gave them the price of $4.95. Okay? So you know your price is not the best one. So the person comes to you and the person says, I want to buy 1,000 pieces. How much do you want? You say $5 a piece. And then they say, okay, your price is too high. We need you to give us a better price. And then you say, you know what? No, I'm not going to give you a better price, but I'm going to offer you something else. I'm going to charge you $5 a piece, but I'm going to include the freight for free. And then the person says, okay, the freight per piece equals 3 cents. So now they are at the level of $4.97. Still, you're a little bit higher. But then you say, and I can give you 60 days for the payment. So you pay me 60 days after I deliver the goods to you. So you still charge them $5. You included the freight, which equals 3 cents per piece. And you included 60 days credit line. And they don't have cash. So your offer, even with a higher price, is a lot better than your competition's offer. So you will be able to sell at a higher price, and you are going to get the contract. Why? Because you found out information. Planning is about information. You have to find out everything: business, products, services, markets, needs, everything you know about. You have to know everything about your counterpart. You have to know the company you're going to be working with. When were they founded? What do they do? What companies are their most important customers? What companies are the most important suppliers? Who was the founder? You have to know about the people who founded the company. Um, and you have to know about the people you're going to be negotiating with. So you're going to be negotiating with who? Who is this person? Where did this person go to school? And then you may ask, you may ask me, why do I need to know about where this person went to school? Let me tell you why you need to know about this. Because maybe, just maybe, with all the personal information you can find about people, maybe you can find some elements where both of you coincide. For example, let's say that this person went to, I don't know, whatever university, and you find out that you are a graduate from that university also. So what happens? What happens when you come to the negotiation table and you introduce yourself, say, hello, how are you? Good to meet you. Thank you very much. Good to meet you too. Okay, before we start, may I ask you something? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, but I was looking at your CV, and I found out you're a graduate from this university. Yeah. What year? Sorry, because I graduated from that university also. Oh, I graduated in 1985. Ah, I graduated only 1 year after you. So that means we were in different classes. Do you remember Professor then? Oh, yeah. Did you have the chance to have class with him? Yeah, Professor, what was good? What are you doing? You are generating uh, links with the other person. You are generating um, what it's called affinity. And when you do this, the negotiation process is a lot smoother. It is a lot easier to find a common ground to negotiate with somebody that identifies with you and that you identify yourself with this person. So find out about those elements. And also as part of this planning stage, remember we said, find out the elements that you can offer. Let me give an example of this. In Mexico, there is a very, very big concrete and cement company. The name of the company is Cemex. Cemex is huge. Actually, Cemex is all over the world. I believe they're the second or third biggest cement company in the world. Okay, let me tell you. In Mexico, when I ask the Cemex executives, when I ask them, hey, when you go to your customers, what do they ask? What do they want from you? And the answer is always the same. The customer wants price. The customer always wants to pay the lowest price. So when Cemex goes to their customers, the customer says, what is your price? And Cemex goes, I don't know, $10. And the customer goes, no, sorry, your competition has a lower price. Okay. Every time Cemex goes to the customers want price. What is the only element that Cemex cannot give to the customers? Price. Believe it or not, Cemex is the most expensive one in the market, always. So whatever you want to purchase from them, you want to purchase concrete, you're looking for cement, whatever, Cemex is always going to be the highest in price. Now, still, Cemex is the leader in Mexico. Now, you explain me why. Having the highest price, they are the leaders of the market. And the answer is because they do this, because they know their customers, because they know exactly what the customer needs. and they can provide this. So whenever they sit in front of the customers to negotiate, the customer has in the mind the price. And when Cemex tells them that they are the highest in price, the customer wants to leave. But now Cemex says, okay, I heard that you need the concrete because you want to build a 7-story building. Yeah? Okay. And for a 7-story building, you need concrete, but you also need a pump in order to be able to send the concrete from the floor all the way to the 7th floor. Yes? Okay. And you have a concrete pump. And no, I'm going to rent it. Okay. If you're going to rent the concrete pump, most for sure you're going to pay this much of money, this amount of money. Okay. I have pumps. So I'm going to charge you this price for the concrete. I'm not going to lower my price, but I can include the pump for free. And when the company finds out, when the construction company finds out that the difference in price between the competition and Cemex is lower than the price for renting the concrete pump, then they know Cemex is the best option. What can you provide that makes you the best option even when your price is not the best one? That is what you do here in the planning. Okay? So also, you have to determine your goals. What do you want? What do you want out of this negotiation? Sometimes, and you're going to be surprised about this. Sometimes negotiators start negotiating without knowing what they want at the end. Sometimes you want to sell. Sometimes you want to create a relation. You want to develop a relation. Sometimes you're not interested in this particular operation, but you're interested in developing a relation with the other company because you know that in the long term, the relation is going to be very good for your business. So sometimes you sacrifice this negotiation in order to be able to create that long-term relationship. So what do you want? You have to make up your mind at this stage and find how the outcome of the ideal negotiation looks like. Also, you need to determine your BATNA. Okay, I'm not going to talk about BATNA now. We're going to see BATNA in the next unit. But believe me, BATNA is going to be the best tool. The best tool you're going to take out from this course, that's BATNA. So next unit, we're going to be talking about BATNA. Okay, now, you have to make your SWOT analysis. You know SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You know about this. The SWOT analysis is going to let you know what can you provide that you're very good at, but it also will let you know in which elements, in which points you're not good for. What are those elements that are not part of your strengths? And you need to know them because you need to try to put them on the side. You need to try to take them away of the negotiation process because you know that you're not the best for those. Also, determine your elasticity in this stage. Remember, you're going to negotiate with maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 elements, okay? You need to determine how much are you willing to give away in each one of those elements. In other words, talking about price, what is going to be your biggest discount? If you're talking about payment schedule, if you're talking about credit line, okay, how much time is the maximum time you can afford to give this other person? It doesn't mean that that's what you're going to give. It means that is going to be your limit. So if you say, I'm not going to give more than 90 days credit, So when you're negotiating at the table, you better respect that. You better keep your 90 days limit. So don't go beyond that. If the other side wants 120 days and you determined that 90 was the 90 was the limit, stick with the 90. Okay, so this is all that you do in the planning stage. So now you're ready. Now you can go and you can sit in front of your counterpart. And then we arrive at the opening stage. The opening stage is when you sit in the negotiations table, and the first thing you do is that you introduce yourself. Okay, so some of the most important elements is make sure from the beginning that the whole process will go in a very friendly way. So from the beginning, just make sure that everything develops in harmony and smooth. So if the other part is late for whatever reason, if you arrived on time and they are 10 minutes late, and whenever they introduce themselves and they say, oh, we're sorry, we're late. And if your attitude is like, you know what, don't worry, I don't have anything else to do that wait for you the whole day. We set 9 o'clock and you're arriving 9 and 10. So that is not good. Okay, anyways, let's start the negotiation. You know what, forget it. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work because it is not going to be a negotiation. It's going to be a confrontation. So make sure from the beginning that everything goes smooth. Try to develop this friendly environment and start developing that friendly environment from the beginning when you sit and you introduce yourself. Okay? Don't hurry the process. Negotiations need time. So the negotiation process needs its own time. So this is this varies depending on the culture. For some cultures, uh, they know time is not in a hurry. They are relaxed. They take their time. They like to think. They like to analyze. And for some of the cultures, time is money. So they're always in a hurry. So they push the negotiation in order to advance. So let's say that you're sitting at the same table, a Japanese negotiator and an American, a US negotiator. For the Japanese, smooth. For the Japanese, don't worry about time. For the American, time is money. Hurry up. And they're going to push. And the Japanese knows this. So they use this in their advantage. They even go slower. And because they know the Americans hate this. Americans like to advance fast in the negotiation. But Japanese are going to hold on. And they're going to slow down. And because of this, they know that the US negotiator is going to give away more, is going to accept lower conditions because they want to advance and because they're desperate, because the negotiation seems stuck. So Japanese use time during the negotiation. They use time in their advantage. So remember this. Negotiations require time. Give them enough time. The opening stage is also the part of the negotiation where you determine and you confirm the interests of the other side. So if there's a doubt, this is the time to settle up. And how can you do it? Just ask. Excuse me. As far as I know, today you're here because you're interested in buying 1,000 pieces. Is that right? No, 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 no. We're interested in buying 10,000 pieces. Oh, okay. This is the time to confirm whatever information you have and you're not sure if it's completely accurate. So ask, okay? And it's always good to establish to elaborate an opening statement. The opening statement is more like uh, giving a short statement saying, why are you there? Why are you sitting there? What do you want? What are you looking for? What expectations do you have? Okay, so whenever you do an opening statement here, whenever you elaborate an opening statement, uh, the opportunities for misunderstandings, they are very, very low. This means that you're not going to waste time talking about issues that are not important for the other side. Okay, so the opening stage, now you're sitting at the table, now you are talking to the other side. Now we go into the bargaining stage. But we said the bargaining stage, we're going to divide it in two parts. So, bargaining stage. The bargaining stage is nothing more than offers and counter offers, proposals and counter proposals. Okay? You're sitting at the table and then you make your first proposal. You tell the other side, okay, this is what we would like to have. We want 10,000 pieces. We want to pay you $5 per piece. We need you to deliver all the pieces, all the parts. We need you to deliver the parts in 1 week. We need you to include the freight because we don't have trucks. And we need you to give us 90 days for payment. So we're going to pay you 90 days after you deliver the parts. Okay. So how many elements? The price, the delivery date, the freight, and the payment. 4 elements. And then the other side says, okay, yes, we can provide you 10,000 pieces. However, not in a week. Forget it. It's going to take us at least 2 months. About the price, sorry, we cannot sell them for $5. The best price we can offer you is $6 a piece. And the freight, yes, we can deliver them, but we're going to charge you for the freight. We're going to charge you $1,000 for the freight. And everything that we just told you is cash, no credit. Okay, now, you see what is going on? You made a proposal, and now they answered you with another proposal. So what do you do now? Now you have to make a counter proposal, okay? 2 months is too much. Let's stick with, okay, we can accept 1 month. 1 month. About the price, no, $6 is too much. We can go a little bit higher to $5.20. Then the freight, $1,000, forget it, that's too much. We're going to pay you $500 for the freight. And no way it's going to be cash. At least we need 60 days. And now the answer. So the negotiation, the part of the bargaining stage in the negotiation is offers and counter offers. But you're dealing with 4 or 5 elements. You're not dealing only with price. So at this point, it can be very frustrating, especially for some cultures like Latin Americans or Asian people. This bargaining on the table stage becomes quite complicated. And some cultures, they kind of don't like to negotiate on the table. So at a certain point, you say, you know what? I'm tired. We have been sitting here for 1.5 hours. It looks like we're not getting anywhere. Let me ask you, do you have coffee here? Yeah, we have a coffee station just outside. Uh, can we have a coffee outside? Yeah, let's relax a little bit. Let's go out. So you go outside of the room, you go to this coffee station, you drink a coffee, and while you're drinking your coffee, standing up with the other person, you bring the subject back. 1.5 hours. How come we are not advancing? Okay, let me tell you what. One of the problems is that you want the freight to be included. And let me be honest with you. Our boss told us that for no reason we cannot include freights. So you insist on the freight, and I can't do anything about it. And they say, okay, if that's an issue, forget about the freight, but give me a 5% discount. If you give me a 5% discount, forget about the freight. What are you doing? You are bargaining in a setting that is not as, let's say, that is not as official as the bargaining table. So for some cultures, they like to take the negotiation out to a more relaxed environment. And that's called bargaining away from the table. Now, be careful. Bargaining away from the table means taking the negotiation to a more relaxed environment. It doesn't mean negotiating in the bar. It doesn't mean negotiating with party time or taking the other people to party and then having alcohol and then having them accept whatever you want. That is not it. Has nothing to do with it. It is just about taking the negotiation to a more relaxed environment. In some cultures, they do negotiations exactly in this way. Now, for Latin American countries, for Asian countries, bargaining away from the table. Now, Germans, in Germany, forget it, never. Germany, you always stay at a table, always. Germans are not going to negotiate with you if you want to take them out of the table, okay? So let's say that you now have an agreement. Now you found a way to do it. Now what? Now you have to go back to the table because you have to formalize it. And this is the closing stage. Closing a negotiation means being able to recap all the elements that you agreed on. Remember, you're negotiating with 4 or 5 elements. So one of the biggest mistakes negotiators make is that after negotiating for hours and after negotiating or bargaining with 4 or 5 elements, they find an agreement, they go away, and after 2 or 3 days, the agreement is no longer there because nobody knows what exactly were the last conditions they negotiated. So we said 5% discount. No. Remember, we mentioned 5% discount, but then when you asked me for cash, I said, no way. It has to be higher. And then you gave me an 8% discount. No. That was before you asked me for the freight. Who's right? We don't know and we don't care. It's not important who's right. The problem is that at a certain point, you don't even remember what the negotiation specs looked like. So always leave something in writing. After the bargaining stage, once you reach an agreement, make sure at least to send an email after the negotiation is over. Send an email and send an email saying, thank you very much. I was very glad to be able to negotiate with you. Now, these are the terms that we negotiated. We're going to give you this and this and this, and then you're going to pay this much, and then that, so and so. Whenever the other person answers that email, oh, yeah, thank you. I'm glad we were able to find an agreement. Yes, those are the terms. Now you're safe. Okay? And always remember that for some cultures, the negotiation, even more than just being able to find an agreement, is about creating a relationship. So use the closing stage in order to develop this relationship, in order to make sure that this relationship is going to be stable in the future. And now we go to the follow-up. The follow-up is very simple. And I'm going to tell you my rule for the follow-up. Even when the operation of the agreement is not in your hand, the follow-up is your responsibility. Why? Because people trusted you. Because people trusted you. So even when the follow-up is not your responsibility, at the end, it is. Even when you're not operating the agreement. Because the people saw your face and they believed in you. So if there's any problem after this, let's say that your customer calls you. Hey, hello, good morning. Yeah, good morning. You know what? I just wanted to ask you, you told me you were going to send all the parts on Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah? Okay, today is Monday and it's already 12 and we have not received the parts yet. Really? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give you the phone number of my friend Steve. Steve is in charge of the freight department. So call Steve and ask him why your parts are not there. Is that the way it goes? No, forget it. You hang down the phone and you call Steve and you find out what's going on because your customer trusted you. When you negotiated, he trusted you. So the follow-up is in your hands, even when the operation is not. Okay? And then after the follow-up, we believe now we're over, not yet. We're still talking about the conflict resolution. Now, remember what I mentioned. Conflict resolution, we're going to devote to conflict resolution in a couple of units at the end. So I'm not going to be very specific at conflict resolution at this time. I just want to mention that conflict will always be there. Conflict will be part of the negotiation, even when you don't like it. And when conflict comes, you have to know how to solve it. And you even have to know how to take advantage of it. It sounds kind of complicated. It's not that much. There's a concept called the productive conflict. So nobody likes conflict, but if you get conflict, if you now face conflict with the other side, use it to your advantage. Okay? But we're going to talk about that and in the last couple of units. So this is the negotiation process. This is how it looks like. And remember, at the beginning, when you are getting used to negotiations, I really advise you to follow each one of the steps. With the experience, once you are more used to negotiating, you are going to be able to skip some of the steps or maybe make some of the steps simpler. However, a very important negotiation, my advice to you is make sure that you're following each and every one of the steps, each and every one of the elements, that you consider everything that I just mentioned in this presentation. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to see you next unit. Don't forget about the negotiation steps. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.